Korach, we need to do a little genealogy. So you have Levi, and Levi has three sons, Gershon, Kehas, and Merari. Those are the three sons of Levi, who's the son of Yaakov. Kehas has four sons, Amram, Yitzhar, Hebron, and Uziel. Those are the four sons of Kehas. Okay? So what we're going to do is, to make it easier, we're going to erase now Gershon and Merari, so they don't confuse us. Amram has two sons, Moshe and Aaron. Yitzhar has one son that we care about. His name is Korach, which makes Moshe and Korach cousins. First cousins. Uziel has a son named I can't. I just had it. Uziel has a son named I can't believe it slipped my mind. What's his name? Elitzaphan. He has other names, sons, but he has sons. Now, what happens, the background of all this is that when Moshe Rabbeinu was dividing up the tribes and he appointed leaders in Levi, so the head of the tribe of Levi, Moshe appointed as the head of the tribe of Levi, he appointed Elitzaphan, the son of Uziel. This got Korach upset, because Korach felt Moshe's the leader, Aaron's the Kohen Gadol. If there's another position of honor, leadership, who should be next in line to get it? Well, Amram has two sons, and they both got positions. The next oldest son is Yitzhar, so the logical person to get it should be Korach. That's what he felt. Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem, take one of the younger cousins. We don't know the ages. We only know the age of their fathers. And Moshe Rabbeinu is told by Hashem, take Elitzaphan and make him the leader of the tribe of Levi. That ticked Korach off. Now, that happened back in Parshas Midbar or Nasa. I don't remember which one it was, but that already happened. Now, the Torah begins over here, Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar, see there's Yitzhar, page 820, ben Kehas ben Levi, V'dasan va'aviram b'nei Eliyav, Ve'on ben Pelas b'nei Ruvain. So of course, when there's trouble, Dasan and Aviram are there. And then there's a man named On ben Pelas, who is part of the rebellion. And eventually, then we're not going to find On ben Pelas isn't going to be there. So the first point here is that this man Korach starts a rebellion. And what did they do? Look at the next pasuk. Vayakumu lifnei Moshe u'va'anoshim b'nei Yisrael chamisha b'masayim. They and another 250 men stand up against Moshe. Nesiei Eda, they're prominent individuals. Kriyei Moed Anshe Shem, they're men with a famous reputation. Vayikalu al Moshe v'al Aaron, vayomer aleim. They gather against Moshe and Aaron. They say to them, Rav lachem, you've taken too much. Ki kol ha'ida kulam kedoshim, everybody's holy. Uvesocham Hashem, umadu atisnasu al Hashem. Why have you promoted yourself over the congregation of Hashem? That's the rebellion of Korach. What does Korach want? Korach's ticked because he got skipped over. So Korach says, hey, listen, I want to be the Kohen Gadol. If already I'm going for something, so I may as well become the Kohen Gadol. According to others, he wanted Moshe out of the way so he should become the leader. And when you look at it, you see that, you ever see a 2-year-old who's overtired? An overtired 2-year-old, whatever happens, you give, I want this. You give it to him, the kid throws it away. I want that, he doesn't even know what he wants. And what you really need to do is put him to sleep. Don't put him to sleep. No matter what you do, it isn't good. He's overtired. Korach doesn't even know what he wants. He's so far tumult from being skipped over. In other words, all of this would have been avoided had Korach gotten that original appointment as the leader of the tribe of Levi. Well, the whole thing would have been avoided. Now he skipped me over. Now I want this, I want that, I want the other, I want that. Nobody should be a leader, but I should be the leader. They're eventually going to say, we don't need any leader. What about if you're the leader? Well, that would be different. You got this in Israeli politics over here, where you got Bennett and Lapid and these other clowns. Each one says, I'm going to be the leader, right? Now, what little do they know that none of them are going to end up the leaders. But they talk about what they're going to do when they become the leader. They don't know what they want. They know what they want, and they know what they're concerned about them. I'm in it for you. Yeah, I'm in it for you means me. So you have these people over here. Korach starts this rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. What are you tzahitzt about? Okay, so the first question is, why does he wait until now to start a rebellion?
His wife persuaded him.
That's true. The Medrash says his wife persuaded him. That's true. But why now? Why now? Why not earlier? Why didn't, as soon as Moshe Rabbeinu skipped him over, when he appointed Elitzaphan as the leader of the tribe of Levi, Korach should have been says, hey, whoa, what's going on? What's up with that, as you people say?
So what point is this?
This is much later now. What point is this is exactly the question. Why now? All of a sudden now he finds, now's the time to start trouble. Why?
To discredit him what tzitzit?
That's how he does it. We'll see about that in a second. But why now? The answer is, I told you, my brother and I used to have contests who could be more annoying. And you are looking at, obviously, at the still reigning world champion. Never lost. And part, why are you laughing? You want to be a victim? Yehuda? You want no, you don't want to be a victim. One of the talent, this is probably an innate talent I was born with, is knowing the timing when he's most vulnerable. And then zeroing in for the kill. I could get him to tears. I could actually get him to tears, right? Yeah, there was, listen, everybody has their achievements in life. Right? That was my achievement. And I could get him, and you just had to know which button to push. So Korach knows there's a button he pushes. What's the button? The mood of the people originally, they're being divided into tribes, and this is your flag, and this is your team, and this is your group, and they're riding the waves right now. They got out of Egypt, they just built a Mishkan, they're divided up, they're at the pinnacle of success. And all of a sudden you have the incident with the spies, and you're being told you're going to be in the desert for 40 years, and the mood of the people is not good, and at that point, Paro says, now is the time to start trouble. Because the people are anyway bitter. The people are anyway upset. Now's the time where it's going to work. When everybody's right, we're doing well, and you call for change, nobody's interested in change. A guy holding 4 aces never calls for a new deal. Right? The trick is to be holding the 4 aces. Right? You got to know how to deal yourself 4 aces. But when you're holding a royal flush, nobody calls for a new deal. But when you got a lousy hand, that's when everybody's upset. That's what Korach pushes this button. Number 1. Number 2. What triggered it? Remember we talked about the initiation of the Levium, right? They were initiating the Levium into the service. So what did they do? They shaved them bald. They shaved the Levium. Korach was the first one who got shaved. You like that, huh? He was the first one, which also upsets him. How come I'm the first one to be shaved, but I'm not the guy who gets the appointment to be the leader? And then he comes home and he fetches his wife, said to him, what happened to you? Well, I mean, sometimes there's certain Jewish Hasidic groups where it's the wives who get shaved bald. But over here, Korach comes home, and his wife said, "What happened by the barber today?" He comes home, and he looked like a bowling ball. It was a Moshe Rabbeinu. He shaved us. They waved us around like chickens, right? And next thing you know, we're. And she said, "Look at it, it's ridiculous." Korach says, "He's making fun of you." Korach says that he did it to himself too. She said, "Yeah, but that's because he figured it's his joke, so he'd take himself down because that's how you make the practical joke work." So she eggs him on, no pun intended. He looked like an egg. She eggs him on, right? She eggs him on. Now, 1 second. What happened to On ben Peles? And the word On ben Peles, second line. And the word Peles, it comes from the word Pele, which is a wonder, a miracle. And the Medrash says wonders happened to him. Why? On ben Peles comes home, and his wife says to him, he's got that look. His wife says, "So what's going on?" "Oh, nothing. I passed the, and like all good wives, they could see when you got that glint in your eye, something's up. And a guy comes home, the wife says, "What's going on?" "Oh, nothing." And the wife knows that there's something. And so you sit there and you sit chit chat, at a certain point you can say, "Now what's going on?" Right? And so Mrs. Peles, with an unfailing sense of smell, she smells something's up. She goes, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, just a rebellion. Against who? Against Moshe Rabbeinu. It's me and Korach and the boys." He goes, she says, "Well, what's in it for you? What's in it for you? If Moshe Rabbeinu is the leader, you're a follower. If Korach becomes the leader, you're going to be a follower. What's in it for you?" He goes, "Oh, but I swore that I'd go with them." All of a sudden, righteous indignation. "I swore that I would join them." And a shvuah is very severe. He's not going to break his oath. He said he'll be with them. So she says, "Let me deal with it." She gives him wine. Ladies, this is great strategy to extricate your husband from trouble. First thing is, she gives him wine to drink and puts him to sleep. Get out of the way. Get the man out of the way. You're in enough trouble. Let me take care of it. She gives him, it says, she gave him the wine, got tired from it, he went to sleep. She went out the next morning and she stood in front of the tent and she let her hair down. And then Korach and the boys, when they came to pick him up, and all of a sudden they see this lady standing out there with her hair exposed, they turn away immediately and go in the other direction. His wife saved him. Which tells you something about, well, look, we're not talking about a bunch of thugs over here, by the way. This isn't the what's it called? The Bloods. It's like, how do you do it? Like this, isn't that the Bloods? This isn't the Bloods, right? This is Korach, who's somebody who carried the Aron Kodesh. I was so intrigued the first time I saw that. It was really neat. Isn't that how you do it? It's not the Crips, the Blood. It's not any of those guys. Korach carried the Aron Kodesh. He's one of the highest ranking Leviim. So he sees a woman. It's unthinkable to rebel against the leader is one thing, but to see a woman's hair, that's chas v'shalom. So Korach and the boys root. She saves him. Who took Korach down? Exactly what Elisha said. His wife put it on, and therefore the Medrash says that based on the psukim, that the good wife to take the husband, it saves the husband, that the bad wife takes him down. There's a Gemara that says that there were two couples. There was a tzaddik who was married to a tzaddikess, and there was a rasha who was married to a wicked woman. And they both got divorced and married each other. The tzaddik married the wicked woman. She turned him into a rasha. The rasha married the righteous woman. She turned him into a tzaddik. In the Gemara, the Medrash says, Heve Omer, we see from here, Hakol min ha'isha. It all comes from the wife. The power, the strength comes from the wife. How do you like that? How do you like that? Hakol min ha'isha. So On ben Peles doesn't appear anymore in the story. Afterwards, it's just Korach, Dasan, and Aviram, and the 250 men. He disappears. His wife manages to save him from death and losing his olam haba, at least according to most opinions. He was sleeping. In other words, she felt that you can't swear. There is a concept you can't swear to do an avera. It doesn't count. Just 1 second, Alicia. You can't swear to do an avera. So she gets him out of the trouble, and he eventually survives. Now, if you look at the word Korach Korach, the Medrash says, was the wealthiest Jew in history. There was one wealthy Jew, his name was Korach, who, when he left Egypt, the way the Gemara puts it, he had 300 donkeys with the keys. The donkeys were carrying the keys to his treasure houses. And the Gemara says that the keys were made out of hide, not metal. That means you could carry much dried animal hide, which means that the keys were even lighter, which means he even had more keys than you thought. If they were metal keys, it would have been a heavier load. They 300 donkeys carrying the keys to his treasure houses. In Egypt, from what they took from Egypt to what he found at the Yam Suf, I think there's a Medrash says he found one of the buried hoards that Yosef had buried, I don't remember. But he was the wealthiest Jew. And there was one wealthy guy, was Haman, was the wealthiest guy. That's what the Medrash says. Now, first of all, the number 300, by the way, anytime you see the number 300 in a Medrash or in a Gemara, 300 is often a number of exaggeration. It doesn't literally mean 300. And that type of exaggeration in halacha is permissible when you're using it as figure of speech. To exaggerate by embellishing a story and adding details which were never there, that's called a lie. That you're not allowed to do. But to exaggerate when you're just trying to make a point, figure of speech, you're allowed to. That's what the number 300 often appears. For example, it says that they took 300 Kohanim. There were 300 Kohanim to move the paroches in the Beis Hamikdash. That's a number of exaggeration. Doesn't literally mean 300. Whatever the case, Korach and Haman, there's a common denominator. By the way, I forgot to mention, of all the parshas in the Torah, I'll get to you in a second. Alicia, hold for a few minutes. Of all the parshas in the Torah that are an insight into human nature and what human beings are capable of, I always feel that this is the parsha that you will meet in your life. You will meet a Korach. There's a Korach in every shul. There's a Korach in every institution, and there's a little bit of Korach in most of us. We all have a little bit of Korach in us. Korach and Haman, there's a remarkable common denominator. What is it? They're both rich. They're both extremely prominent, and they're both unsatisfied with what they have. Haman, because Mordechai doesn't bow down, he comes home and says to his wife, he uses an expression, that he talks about his wealth, his family, everything he's got, and then Haman says, V'kol zeh einenu shoveli. This is, none of it's worth anything to me, as long as that one little Jew, no Mordechai, doesn't bow down to me. None of it's worth anything to me. You got everything, and you're not happy with what you got. What's Korach? He's got wealth. He's prominent. He's a Levi who carries the Aron Kodesh. You're Vala, and you're not happy with it. And eventually, that cost him his life and his world to come. And everybody has. Korach is suffering intensely from jealousy, and he's got a distorted sense of self of how prominent he is. Part of which is, by the way, because look at his father's name, Yitzhar. Yitzhar is oil. What happens to oil? Floats to the top. Korach says, listen, if that's my father, I meant to be prominent. And why are these guys got all the honor over it and all the prestige? And so Korach starts this rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, what's that? He also had Ruach HaKodesh. What did he see in his Ruach HaKodesh? He said, Shmuel Navi is going to be coming from him. And the pasuk says, Moshe v'Aaron b'kohana v'Shmuel b'korei Shmuel. Shmuel at a certain level is weighed against Moshe and Aaron. He said, if I've got Shmuel Navi coming from me, then it can't possibly be that I'm just an ordinary person. So he was accurate, but he made one mistake. You know why Shmuel Navi was coming from him? Korach thought, well, yeah, Shmuel Navi is going to come from me. Obviously, Korach made one mistake over here. He just misread. Even Ruach HaKodesh could be distorted. He was right. Shmuel's coming from. You know why he merited to have Shmuel come from him? He's not going to like this. Because he himself died, and that was a Kiddush Hashem. He became the object of a Kiddush Hashem. His death was a Kiddush Hashem because it showed the Jewish people that Moshe Rabbeinu is legit. Oh, Korach, you died, therefore you get Shmuel and Navi. He didn't read it that way. Haman had children, the Gemara says, Mibnei banav shel Haman limdu Torah b'Bnei Brak. Haman had descendants who taught Torah in Bnei Brak. Now, how did Haman get that? Because Haman was a vehicle for Kiddush Hashem. You're not that type of vehicle you want to be. Because this is a vehicle, you feel like you got ran over by a vehicle. So Korach sees, but he didn't read it properly. Of course you have Shmuel Navi coming for you, because your death is going to bring Shmuel Navi. Had he known that, he wouldn't have been so confident. Now, look what he does. Take a look at Rashi, the 6th line. Ben Yitzhar ben Kehas ben Levi. So the pasuk traces Korach's ancestry upwards, and he says he's the son of Yitzhar ben Kehas ben Levi. V'lo hiskir ben Yaakov. Do you see Rashi? It's the right column, 6 lines from the top. It doesn't mention that Levi is the son of Yaakov. Yaakov's name is not mentioned in this pasuk when it traces Korach's ancestry upwards. Shebikesh rachamim al atzmo, Yaakov davened, shelo yizacher shmo amachlukosav. Yaakov davened at some point, knowing prophetically that there might be, or there will be, or Ruach HaKodesh, that there's going to be a rebellion. Yaakov davened that his name is not associated with this rebellion. Now, what does that mean that Yaakov didn't want his name associated with this rebellion? So the plain meaning is Yaakov says, "Hey, listen, I don't want my name associated with this guy." I saw one of the Moshe says a very sharp idea here. What would happen if Korach would say, "Hey, I want to be prominent, and not only that, look at my great-grandfather. Look what he did. Didn't Yaakov Avinu deceive Esav in order to take the birthright, which grants him the prominence of being the firstborn? So if Yaakov could do it, listen, I'm only following the path of my ancestors." So Yaakov Avinu davens that his name shouldn't be associated, meaning that Korach shouldn't think of this idea that he could justify what he's doing based on Yaakov Avinu. Now, who mentioned the talis? You mentioned the talis and the mezuzah. Right, okay. Take a look at Rashi. Okay, this is phenomenal. Take a look at the left column of Rashi. It's the 3rd line from the top. Rashi, 3rd line from the top on the left column. So it says, everybody say, if you find it, please show the person next to you. Eile kruei ha'eda, v'hilbishon talisos shekulan tcheles. He gave them garments that are all tcheles. Bo ve'amdu lifnei Moshe. They came to Moshe Rabbeinu. Amru lo, talis shekulot tcheles, a garment that is fully tcheles. Chayeves b'tzitzis o petura. Does it have to have tzitzis on it, or is it exempt? It's completely blue. Amar lahem chayeves. It's obligated. Hischilu lischok olav. They started laughing. Efsher talis shomin acher. A garment of a different type of material. Chut echad shel tcheles potra. One string of tcheles exempts it. Zu shekulo tcheles lo tiftar etz atzma. This talis that's fully tcheles, shouldn't it exempt itself? Got it it's all blue. If it's white and get one string of tcheles, takes care of the whole garment. If the whole garment is blue, what's the point of having one string? Then there was another question they asked him. That's Rashi only brings down that. What else did he have? A house full of svarim. Does it need a mezuzah? A mezuzah is 2 paragraphs from the Torah. A house full of sifrei Torah. Does it need a mezuzah on the wall? And if it needs a mezuzah, why should that be? If a house, if 2 paragraphs exempt a house with no sifrei Torah, so if you load it up with sifrei Torah, what do you need a mezuzah for? So, Alicia, just hold for a few minutes. Korach was saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, almost facetiously, he says, you taught us a halacha that you got to put a mezuzah on the wall, right? It's 2 paragraphs. And that takes care of a whole house. Okay? Now, if I load up the house with sifrei Torah, which have those, each one of them has those 2 paragraphs in it. What do you need a mezuzah for? What kind of ridiculous halacha is it? That means Korach was challenging, according to the Gemara, he was not only challenging Moshe Rabbeinu, he got carried so far away, he was challenging the authenticity of Torah, the legitimacy of Torah. If you could, and the legitimacy of Moshe Rabbeinu is the legitimacy of Torah. And he's challenging the whole package. But what was he really doing? What was Torah really saying? Even more than that, before we even answer that, in Pirkei Avos, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says there's called a machlokes l'shem shemayim. It's a dispute for the sake of serving God. And then there's something called a machlokes that's not l'shem shemayim. What's the example of a dispute that's for serving God? Hillel and Shammai. Hillel and Shammai. And they married with each other, and they trusted each other, and they were exactly. And they had a dispute, but the dispute was because of Torah. It wasn't personal about it. It was a purely motivated dispute to try to figure out the truth of Torah. That's the machlokas Hillel and Shammai. Then the Mishnah says, and what's a machlokas that's not l'shem shemayim? The Mishnah says, Korach v'chol adosa, Korach and his congregation. Now, if you're learning Pirkei Avos and if you learn the Chumash, so what do we always say in the Gemara when it tells us the obvious? Pshita. Why does the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos have to tell us where you want to find a dispute that's not l'shem shemayim? It's Korach and his congregation. I mean, I see that when people get swallowed up in the earth, that's not a machlokas l'shem shemayim. They obviously did something wrong. Why do I need the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos to tell you that? The answer is because they came along with a talis and with a mezuzah. So you might, these guys are frum. Oh, this is a machlokas l'shem shemayim. The frumies, they're a bit extreme, but they're frum. It's all l'shem shemayim. See, they're holding a talis and a mezuzah. Says the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, this is not l'shem shemayim. It's all about themselves. All about themselves. What are they really saying to Moshe Rabbeinu? If you take a talis, it's all blue. Why do I look at this? Here's my talis right here. I got some talis. Even my chumash is from. If you have a talis that's completely blue, this talis is white, but this talis is all blue. Here we go. There's my blue talis. Why do I need one string to stand out? What they're saying to Moshe Rabbeinu is, we're all holy. Isn't that what it says in the pasuk? It says, Kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. We're all holy. Why do we need one to stand out, meaning you? And again, Korach, in his heart of hearts, is still thinking, but if it's me, it's okay. You have a house full of Sifrei Torah. Why do you need one mezuzah on the wall to stand out? We're all Sifrei Torah. Kulam kedoshim. That's what's underlying this. That's a machlokas shelo l'shem shemayim. That's why. But you're using frum items. You're using frum items. Rav Rakmil Zichrono Livracha, he pointed out, you know what the indication is that what Korach is doing is not l'shem shemayim? They're trying to remove the mitzvahs. We don't need tzitzis. We don't need chelis. We don't need a mezuzah. Every reform movement in history, what's the telltale sign that it's not kosher? Because all the reform movements and conservative movements, what have they done? They've made things easier. They've removed the requirements. When you're removing requirements, you got to be very, very suspicious. Here's Korach and his men underlying this is the removal of your obligations. When things are removing obligations, then be careful. When most Rabbanans and most of the laws that were added to the Torah by the Rabbanans made things easier for us, or they made things a little bit tightened it up. They generally tightened it up. The Rabbanan never came along and said, "Oh, meat and milk, you don't have to wait at all." The Rabbanan came along and said 6 hours. Ooh, yeah, well, there goes that. Can't move anything on Shabbos. Muktzah. They didn't say, "Oh, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay to write on Shabbos." To the contrary, they made it tighter, not looser. When it's loosening up, that generally you got to suspect the motivation of the movement. And what do Korach and his men do? Underlying this is loosening things up. But underlying it is a challenge to Moshe Rabbeinu's authority. Gentlemen, what does the word Korach come from? What does Korak mean? The Gemara says there was a man who was married to 2 women. One was older and one was younger. The older woman plucked out his black hairs. The younger woman plucked out his gray hairs. And the Gemara says, between the 2 of them, he ended up bald. He was Kereach Mikan Umikan. No, I only have one wife, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. I only got one. Only got one. But never mind. Korach comes from the word Kereach. Oh, she's wonderful, by the way. She is absolutely wonderful. If it was anybody else, I'd have even less hair. How's that? How's that for a bailout? Korach is the exact same letters as the word Kereach, bald. He ends up with nothing. Kereach mikan. He's got everything, and he ends up with nothing. Kereach mikano mikan. He ends up without anything. Why? Because he wanted something that was not suitable for him. Therefore, Korach, he is the classic example of the person who is not satisfied in life. That's the lesson that comes from this parsha. The lesson that comes from the parsha is, if you're not satisfied, it doesn't matter how much you have. They just had a report, Elon Musk is about to become, they're projecting now he's going to become the first trillionaire in history, because their SpaceX is going public, and somehow that's going to turn him into a trillionaire. I want to ask you a question. If you're not happy with a couple of billion, or a couple of $100 billion, you mean it's only if you become a trillionaire that you'll, now I can finally get that 8-slice toaster I've always wanted. At the end of the day, if a couple of million isn't going to do it for you, a couple of million is going to do it for you. I don't know that a couple of billion is going to do it for you either. And Korach's got everything and he loses it. 1 second. Now look ahead. Vayakum, they get up and now watch this. They come to Moshe and Aaron. And they say, Kola Eida Kulam Kedoshim. Pay attention carefully, gentlemen. Ki Kola Eida Rav Lochem Ki Kol Ha'Eida Kulam Kedoshim. Now, look at the word Mem. It's 5 lines from the top. You got to see this inside, gentlemen. You see where it says Rav Lochem? What's the last letter in the word Lochem? Mem. Mem Sofit, but it's used as a mem. What's the last letter in the next word?
Ki.
What's the last letter?
Yod.
Yud. What's the last letter in the next word?
Hey.
No. Lamed.
What?
Which word? Kol. Ki kol.
Okay.
What's the last letter in the next word? Hey. Mem, Yud, Lamed, Hey.
Mila.
Which is what? Circumcision. What's the kedusha of the Jewish people? From the earliest day, 8 days old, circumcision, an act of instilling kedusha. Al brischa shechasamta b'v'sarenu. The kedusha, which is always in the area of immorality, where does it start for a Jew? It starts from bris milah. That's the stepping stone for kedusha. What are they saying? Ki rav lachem, ki kol eida kolam kadosh. We're all kadosh. We're all holy because we've all had bris milah. We're all kedoshim. Uvesocham Hashem. Umadua tisnasu al kahal Hashem. Why do you promote yourself over the congregation? What's Moshe's reaction? Vayishma Moshe vayipol apanav. Moshe falls over. Moshe is despondent because it's the first rebellion that the Levium have taken part in. The Levium have now taken part. Up until this point, there were 3 rebellions of the Levium. There were 3 hackings, and the Levium were never involved. Moshe Rabbeinu falls over. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu could have just turned around and said, hey, listen, Korach, I split the sea. I brought down the Torah. I took the Jewish people. I did a lot of stuff. Come on, why are you hacking over here? And Moshe Rabbeinu, out of his humility, Moshe Rabbeinu falls over. That's a sign of humility. I'm going to turn this over to Hashem. I'm despondent over it. I'm helpless. I'm powerless. Now, what's remarkable is, listen carefully. What did George Orwell once say? All men are created equal, but some are more equal than others. Yeah. Didn't George Orwell say that? All men are equal, but some are more equal than others. Famous line from Orwell. Korach's got a problem. Korach's got a problem over here. And the guy is good, by the way. The guy is good. Korach's got a problem. He's trying to say we're all holy, we're all on the same level. There's only one problem. When it comes to Kedusha, who is clearly on a higher level? Moshe Rabbeinu is in a different category. He's clearly on a higher level of Kedusha, and everybody knows it. This is a man who is separated from his wife. This is Moshe Rabbeinu whose face is glowing, comes down from Har Sinai, his face is glowing. Everybody knows Moshe Rabbeinu is different. The problem over here is going to be we're going to have to figure out some way of tearing down the aura around Moshe Rabbeinu. We have to somehow break through that aura of invincibility. So, a person who's invincible, Moshe Rabbeinu, I mean, come on, he's honestly, we all know, yeah, you're good, but somebody is the best. And everybody knows it. And especially in the area of Kedusha. What do? They start a rumor. In an unbelievable Gemara, it says, Moshe heard and he fell on his face. Why? The Medrash, I don't think Rashi brings it down. I don't remember if Rashi brings it down or not. The Medrash says, Shechashduhu ha'eshes ish. They suspected that Moshe Rabbeinu was involved with a married woman. Wow, Moshe Rabbeinu is involved with a married woman. He's not even involved with his own wife. He's involved with a married woman. And not only that, the Medrash says that every man went and told his wife, don't be secluded with Moshe Rabbeinu, just like you do with a sota, where the husband has to warn the wife, don't be alone with Moshe Rabbeinu. What does that mean? How could they possibly suspect Moshe Rabbeinu shechashdu ha'eshes ish? Nowadays, we could appreciate this, by the way, because all you got to do to rip down a person's reputation is send something out on social media. Then afterwards, they tell you it was all fake news. It's all fake. Yeah, but once it got out there, what's people's reaction? If there's smoke, there's marijuana. Isn't that the how does it go? So if there's smoke, there's fire. Sorry. If there must be. They wouldn't have said it if there's nothing to it, which is not true. Because there's a lot of stuff that's said without not an iota of truth. So what does Korach do? Now, Paro can't just walk around and say, oh, by the way, Moshe Rabbeinu's chasing married women. Because everybody's going to throw him out of the shul. Nobody's going to listen to him. I would imagine that what Korach did is Korach probably saw some guy, after shul, you've been in shul, guys are putting away their tefillin, and a couple of guys on the back table are schmoozing. There's always that third guy who's pretending not to listen, and he's listening to every word, right? Like, these guys are talking about some local hawk, and this guy's just putting away his tefillin, and he's got it all registered. Okay, so Korach goes over to the guy next to him in shul, and he says, hey, Zalman, good morning, I have something, I got to get this off my chest. I mean, I really should, I got to, forget it, I'm not going to say anything. Forget it, I can't, I have to. I don't know, yesterday, forgive me, I really shouldn't say this. Yesterday, I was passing by Moshe Rabbeinu's tent, and I saw a woman who had to ask a shaila. And she had a shaila, I don't know, and she went into the tent to ask Moshe, and forget it, forget I said anything, okay? Just forget it. I don't know. It just seemed to me, this is crazy, but it seemed to me that she was in that tent a little longer than she needed to be. Forget it. I didn't say anything. And then there's that third guy, Herschel, who's at the table. He can't wait to get to his buddies and tell them, hey, I heard Moshe, I heard there was a woman. And that, one way or another, word's going to spread now. That's all he's got to do. All he's got to do is trigger it off with a little bit of something he didn't even see, and I really shouldn't be saying, and somehow those are the things that get said the most. That's why they say when you want to make somebody feel important, you share a secret with them. It makes them feel very important when they're telling it to somebody else. So if Moshe Rabbeinu, and somehow the rumor is true, he's got to break through that aura of Moshe Rabbeinu's kedusha. I think at a deeper level, we all know who's the husband metaphorically. Hashem. Who's the wife metaphorically? Am Yisrael. Korach goes over to somebody and says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu take a married woman? And the guy turns around and says, how dare you? Korach says, I meant it metaphorically. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu take over the Jewish people who are the wife of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I meant it metaphorically. But the third guy at the table, he didn't hear that. He wasn't around for that. All he heard was the first part. And the metaphor, Baruch says, why'd you take over the Jewish people? Why are you the one who tells? That's what the suspicion is. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he's despondent. They didn't see what's happened until now. They didn't see what's going on. They're starting up. Vayedaber al Korach ve'al kol hados leibor. Watch this. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Korach and his entire congregation, Boker, in the morning, v'yoda Hashem es asher lo v'es hakadosh v'yikriv lov. Tomorrow morning, Hashem is going to make known who's the Holy One and who's the one closest. V'es asher yivchar bo yakri ve'lov. And whoever's chosen, he'll draw closer. Look at the letters of the word Korach, gentlemen. Kuf, Resh, Ches. Rearrange those letters of Korach. What do you get? Rachok, which means distant. Moshe Rabbeinu says here, Hashem will let us know who's going to come near. Korach, I got nifid. You're going to be far. Far away from this world and far away from the world to come. So he's trying to give him the warning. And he says, Boker, I'm going to give you till tomorrow morning to come to your senses. Then he says, what are we going to do? Watch this, gentlemen. Zos asu, this is what I want you to do. Kichulachem machtos, take fire pans. Korach v'chol adoso. Take fire pans. Usnuba and Eish, put in coals, fire. V'simu aleim ketores, lifnei Hashem mochar. V'hoya ha'ish asher yivchar Hashem hu hakadosh. The one man who's chosen is the Holy One. Rav Lachem b'nei Levi. Rav Lachem b'nei Levi means two things. Number one, you've gotten a lot. I don't know what you're fetching about. You guys were the chosen tribe. And number two, Rav Lachem b'nei Levi, you bit off a bit more than you could chew right now. Now, if he says there's going to be a showdown tomorrow morning, 250 of us, with fire pans, coals, and ketores, and the one that Hashem chooses, he's the Holy One, what's going to happen to everybody else? They're going to die. You're bringing ketores where you shouldn't? What are the odds? I mean, imagine you're one of the 250 guys now. Now you're telling me that only one of us is going to make it. So every single one of these 250 is gripped by a spirit of folly, thinking he's going to be the one. But 1 second. I want to show you this. You see how subtle this gets. Take a look at Rashi. It's the right column. And you have to see it inside. Right column, 5 lines from the bottom of the right column of Rashi, and it's 822. Machtos. See where Rashi says machtos, fire pans? Watch this. Right column, 5 lines up. What are machtos? Kelim shechosin behem gecholim. It's like a shovel that you're going to take coals. So picture a thing. Picture like what's the thing that you sweep?
The pizza thing?
Not the pizza thing. Like a pizza thing, but it's a dustpan. Like you have a dustpan. It's like a little shovel. V'yesh lahem beis yad. They have a handle. It's like this little fire pan. It's like a fire pan, and it's got a handle. Now this is very strange because the word machtos has appeared in the Torah several times before, and Rashi never explained what it was. Why is Rashi all of a sudden giving us a lesson in housewares? Oh, you know what a machta is? It's a fire pan. It's got a handle. Oh, shkoyach. What's going on here? Why is Rashi defining it over here? And why is Moshe Rabbeinu emphasizing machtos? Moshe Rabbeinu is responding to Korach's talis and mezuzah claim. You're telling me that a talis in the house, a house, you don't need one to stand out. Take fire pans, gentlemen. What do you do with fire pans? You shovel the coals, but it's got a handle. There's always one that has to stand out. Even on a fire pan, there's one part that stands out. Even a fire pan needs a leader. It needs a handle. It needs a fire. Otherwise, why are you telling me right now, of all places, Rashi defines it? Because that's what Moshe is saying to Korach. Take a fire pan. But even more than that. You think that being a leader is such a wonderful thing? You get honor and glory being the leader. You know what a leader is? You're a slave to the people. You serve the people. You don't lead the people. Like in a fire pan, what does the handle do? The handle serves the pan. You think it's a wonderful being the leader. And number 3, you're shoveling coals. Gentlemen, you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire, gentlemen. I'm giving you a warning, and I'm giving you till tomorrow morning to come to your senses. If you saw what went on by Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zatzal, Reb Chaim Kanievsky was, he wasn't even appointed by anybody. He didn't have a position. Did you ever see what was going on by his home, the lines of people waiting to get into him, where the man doesn't have 5 minutes to himself? And it's one after the other. I was there once by Reb Chaim Kanievsky. We came in as a group from our community. And then Reb Chaim looked up at his grandson. He saw another person coming in. I happened to be there when he said, Zelo nigmar. It's not finishing.
What? It's not finishing?
It's not finishing. Another person coming, another person. And the hallway was packed, shoulder to shoulder, with people waiting to get in. And we weren't even the first ones there. And this was night after night after night after night, day after day. It was on a regular basis. Literally thousands of people coming in to see him on a regular basis. I don't know if thousands in a day, but it was ridiculous, the amount of people. He didn't have a minute to himself. And one day it looks like, oh wow, what an honor, what tremendous honor. He's serving the people. And that's besides the letters that he wrote. He was writing people, he got mail, sacks of mail every day, and he answered all the letters. He's serving the people. Moshe Rabbeinu say, Korach, you want all the glory, huh? You want the glory. Do you know what it is to be the leader? Looks so good. It looks just so tempting from the out there. Until you become it, and you see that you haven't got a minute to yourself and you want to run away. So he's telling them, we're going to have a contest tomorrow, Korach. Take the fire pans. Take the fire pans. Learn a lesson from fire pans, Korach. I'm giving you a chance to think. I'm giving you a chance. Not only that, the Gemara says, if you ever see a Talmid Chacham do an Aveira at night, don't think ill of him the next day, because by the next day he's done tshuva. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying Korach is a Talmid Chacham, and he was a Chacham. And Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to Korach, listen, you got overnight, you're a Talmid Chacham, you'll probably come to your senses. A Talmid Chacham who does an Aveira at night, by the next day you could assume he's done tshuva, says the Gemara, except by monetary infractions. When it comes to money, don't assume he's done tshuva until you know for a fact he's given the money back. How do you like that? How do you like that? Immorality, murder, whatever else it is, Talmid Chacham will have done tshuva by the next day. He stumbled, by the next day he feels bad. Klaps al chait, he'll do tshuva. Except by money. By money, don't assume he's done tshuva until you know for a fact that he's returned what he's taken. How do you like that? How do you like that? That's when it comes to money. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, Korach, you're playing with fire, bro. You're messing with fire. You're shoveling coals over here. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want? And we're going to see tomorrow, they don't come to their senses. It's a remarkable thing how they don't come to their senses. Okay, we'll see tomorrow. Call it you're playing with